In the 1970s, in one of London's most famous streets, a young man in his 20s, while sitting at home, accidentally overheard details about one of the strangest heists in England's history. Over £1.5 million sterling, jewelry and documents belonging to important people in the country were stolen from one of London's largest banks. The method resembled a Sherlock Holmes novel where police were present, but no one realized that a crime was taking place. Moreover, even after some of the criminals involved in the heist were arrested, authorities couldn't identify all those who participated or the full extent of what was stolen. It is said that among the stolen items were valuables worth more than the British crown jewels. Strangely, some of the recovered documents were archived in the British archives, with police stating they would not disclose any information about them until the year 2071. Welcome, and today I will tell you the story of the Baker Street Bank heist. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications so you get updates on new stories every week. I want you to help me reach 200,000 likes before the next video. Our story takes place in September 1971. During this period, London was going through tough economic times, high unemployment, and widespread crime. Anthony Gavin, an Englishman in his late 30s, like many others during this time, was struggling with unemployment, poverty, and poor social conditions. He occasionally engaged in petty theft and sometimes participated in illegal gambling activities, earning small amounts from auctions. However, after suffering several serious injuries, he decided to retire and use the money from his last job to buy a camera. He began working as a tourist photographer, wandering through parks and gardens, photographing families and tourists there. One day, while relaxing in the garden and reading one of his favorite detective novels, he picked up The Red-Headed League by Arthur Conan Doyle, part of the famous Sherlock Holmes series. As Anthony read the story, it gave him an idea. The Red-Headed League tells the tale of a gang that planned to rob a famous bank by digging a tunnel underground. However, when they reached the vault, Sherlock Holmes was waiting for them, and they were arrested. All the details of the plan were described in the book, which inspired Anthony to try implementing it in real life. Since the plan was already laid out, he was confident that if executed meticulously as described, it could succeed, especially since he believed the real British police were nowhere near as intelligent as Sherlock Holmes. To execute the plan, he needed to assemble the right team, with members having clean, criminal records to avoid raising suspicion when the bank discovered the theft. The second condition was selecting the right bank, one with a safety deposit section, as the contents inside these boxes were usually unknown to the bank, making detection harder. Additionally, the chosen bank had to be located in a busy commercial area, surrounded by many shops to avoid drawing attention to unusual activity. There also needed to be an empty store nearby available for rent or sale, which Anthony could use as their base. Anthony wasn't just an ordinary person who woke up one day and decided to rob a bank. He was highly intelligent, with military experience that provided him with skills in planning, organization, and attention to detail. For 2 months, he carefully searched within his network of acquaintances in bars and nightclubs until he remembered an old friend named Reynold Tucker, a 37-year-old trader in used cars. Despite appearing clean, Tucker secretly dealt in stolen car parts, which made Anthony consider him a potential candidate. One day, Anthony visited Tucker's workshop to test his interest. After discussing their struggles with poverty, Anthony revealed his true intention: robbing a bank. Tucker, knowing Anthony as cautious and not reckless, quickly agreed after Anthony explained the meticulous planning behind the operation. After agreeing, Tucker asked when they would start, assuming everything was ready. However, Anthony informed him of the numerous specific conditions required for the target bank, which initially seemed impossible to meet. But Anthony remained determined and conducted a thorough review of all banks in the area, eventually settling on Lloyds Bank, located at 185 Baker Street, the same street where Sherlock Holmes lived in his stories. Baker Street was known as one of the most prestigious areas in London, and Lloyds Bank served as a repository for jewels, money, and secrets of London's wealthiest and most prominent figures. Fortunately, there was an adjacent leather goods store available for rent, fulfilling another key requirement. The challenge now was how to acquire the funds to rent the store. Located only 12 meters from the bank, presenting a golden opportunity for Anthony to utilize it for tunneling. However, the owners were asking for £10,000, which Anthony didn't have. Remembering that Tucker mentioned having some savings, Anthony persuaded him to invest, explaining it was a profitable deal with returns far exceeding the initial investment. Initially reluctant, Tucker suggested involving a third person, Benjamin Wolfe, a 40-year-old antiques dealer and longtime associate, who undoubtedly had the necessary funds due to his successful business. Given their history of illegal dealings, Tucker believed Wolfe was the ideal partner. Initially, Anthony strongly opposed bringing in an outsider, especially someone older with limited physical fitness who wouldn't actively participate in the heist. However, lacking alternatives, he reluctantly agreed. When presented with the plan, Wolfe agreed to join under the condition of receiving a percentage of the total loot and reserve the right to withdraw if the plan failed. Eventually, the trio agreed, and Wolfe provided the funds, securing the lease in May 1971. Upon acquiring the store, the three men examined the premises and discovered a basement used as storage, eliminating concerns about tunneling through the shop floor. To prevent anyone entering while they worked, they posted a sign indicating the store would open in late September and began altering its exterior appearance to suggest renovations were underway. They painted the windows white and placed curtains behind them to conceal any activity inside. With these preparations complete, they focused on acquiring excavation equipment and gathering detailed information about the bank's vault to determine the tunnel's length and direction. Since Anthony and his team now officially owned the store, they opened an account at the targeted bank as a pretext to study its inner workings. Tucker, with his polite demeanor and ability to blend into high society, was the perfect candidate for this task. Using a pseudonym, he opened an account with £500 and regularly visited the bank dressed impeccably, befriending employees to reinforce his image as a respectable businessman. 2 months later, he applied to rent a safety deposit box, gaining access to the room housing the vaults. During his 13 visits, Tucker exploited the privacy policy allowing clients solitude in the vault room to measure and sketch detailed maps using a simple 66-centimeter ruler. From this data, he calculated precise distances and identified the exact location where the tunnel should emerge, avoiding alarms and reaching the 268 deposit boxes. With detailed maps and measurements in hand, the team still needed heavy excavation equipment capable of breaking through the reinforced concrete floor and an expert in security systems to disable the bank's alarm system, triggered by any nearby vibrations. Additionally, they required someone to monitor the surrounding area externally during operations. Realizing the need for heavy machinery, they recruited another member, Thomas Stevenson, a 40-year-old trader in used cars with experience smuggling heavy equipment and weapons. Upon joining, he provided a hydraulic jack with a force of 100 tons, capable of penetrating the bank's floor, along with oxyacetylene torches generating temperatures up to 4,500 degrees Celsius to cut through the steel-reinforced concrete. As a backup, he supplied gelignite explosives in case the other methods failed. Alongside these tools, various smaller excavation instruments were acquired. Next, they secured an expert in security systems, Mickey Gervais, to disable the alarm systems, and Bobby Mills, responsible for external surveillance from the roof of a building across the street, communicating via walkie-talkies. Execution began on the first Saturday of August, chosen because it coincided with the weekend holiday, ensuring minimal disturbance. Working overnight, they started digging downward from the store, reinforcing tunnel walls with metal supports to prevent collapse, and installing lights as they progressed. Exhausted debris was dumped in an abandoned garden behind the store. Though labor-intensive, progress was slow due to the confined space, lack of ventilation, and frequent trips up and down carrying waste material. Throughout this period, lasting approximately a month, Tucker maintained his normal routine to avoid suspicion. During one session, a couple of passers-by noticed unusual sounds emanating from the store. Alerted via walkie-talkie, the team quickly ceased operations as Bobby intervened, posing as a security guard and explaining the noise resulted from the owner leaving the radio on. This incident highlighted the risks associated with noise, prompting Anthony to seek alternative solutions. Fortuitously, local government construction work commenced in the area, providing cover for their operations during daylight hours. Despite resolving noise issues, the excavation itself remained physically demanding. Operating in cramped, hot conditions with minimal oxygen, The team lost significant weight, up to 15 kilograms each. Tucker periodically left to perform his usual banking duties, maintaining appearances. In early September, they reached the reinforced concrete floor of the vault. Another stroke of luck occurred when Anthony overheard that the bank had temporarily disabled its alarm system due to frequent false triggers caused by ongoing municipal construction work. Capitalizing on this, they attempted using the hydraulic jack to breach the floor, but encountered structural instability threatening the tunnel's collapse. Pausing operations, Anthony sought a solution during a drinking session at a local pub. Unfortunately intoxicated, he inadvertently disclosed details of the operation to a stranger seated nearby. The following morning, Anthony found a man standing outside the store threatening to inform the police unless included in the operation. Initially dismissive, Anthony feigned ignorance until the man revealed intimate knowledge of the plan. Reluctantly agreeing, Anthony learned the newcomer was an explosives expert, significantly enhancing their capabilities. Utilizing precision explosives, they gradually created a 30-centimeter diameter hole in the vault floor, narrow enough for only the slimmest team members to navigate. One by one, they entered the vault, emptied the deposit boxes, and filled small bags with the contents. Coincidentally, approximately 800 meters away on Pollard Street, Robert Rowlands, an amateur radio enthusiast, was tuning into Luxembourg radio when he intercepted a suspicious walkie-talkie conversation between two voices, one inside a location and the other outside acting as a lookout. Mentioning 400,000 pounds and nearing completion, Robert deduced a robbery was underway. Despite awareness of potential legal repercussions for unauthorized eavesdropping, his conscience compelled him to report the matter to the police. Initially dismissed as a drunk, Robert followed advice to record further communications. Over 2 hours, he captured comprehensive dialogues revealing multiple participants, including a woman, complaints about toxic fumes, and a heated argument culminating in the rooftop lookout abandoning his post. At 1 a.m., Robert contacted Scotland Yard, whose officers took the report seriously, dispatching an investigator to review the recordings. Confirming a major bank heist, police efforts were hampered by rudimentary signal tracking technology, leading to extensive searches across a wide radius encompassing 750 banks. Ironically, officers inspected Lloyds Bank, but failed to investigate thoroughly beyond confirming the vault door remained intact. Aware of police activity, the gang retrieved what they could and retreated. Returning the following morning at 8:30 a.m., they completed clearing the vaults, stealing over 1.5 million pounds in cash, valuable jewelry, watches, and incriminating documents belonging to prominent individuals. Exiting via the tunnel, they hid evidence, leaving only heavy equipment and locked walkie-talkies behind. Loading their loot into a waiting vehicle, they disappeared. On September 13th, the bank manager arrived to find nothing amiss until the scheduled 10 a.m. vault inspection revealed devastation. 268 broken and empty deposit boxes, scattered papers and jewelry, and a large hole connecting to the tunnel. A note mocking Sherlock Holmes was left behind. Police investigations ensued, interviewing deposit box owners, many of whom refused disclosure. Despite tracing the tunnel to the adjacent leather goods store, no conclusive evidence emerged. Within the first week, Scotland Yard deployed 120 detectives divided into 4 teams, focusing on crime scene analysis, communication with box owners, command center operations, and external investigations. Reviewing Robert's recordings, they estimated 6 participants, including a woman, yet identities remained elusive. Breakthrough came through examining the lease agreement of the leather goods store, revealing Benjamin Wolf's involvement under his real name. Monitoring Wolf led to identifying Tucker, whose workshop closure and disappearance raised suspicions. On October 31st, observing Tucker handing a bag to Abdullah Hassan Gingery and his cousin Muhammad Ali Gingery, police apprehended them with 32,000 pounds linked to the heist. Subsequent arrests included Wolf and Tucker, who implicated Anthony and Thomas. Recovered were documents, personal belongings, and 231,000 pounds, though the remainder's whereabouts remained undisclosed. Strikingly, despite confessions implicating themselves, none resisted arrest. refusing to disclose additional accomplices beyond acknowledging conflict with Bobby Mills, withdrawn mid-operation, investigators suspected involvement in a larger organized crime syndicate. Insurance companies offered £3,000 rewards for further leads. Trials commenced January 2, 1973, concluding with 12-year sentences for Anthony, Tucker, and Thomas, 8 years for Wolf, and acquittal of the Gingery brothers due to their employment by a Swiss financial firm unaware of the heist. Curiously, neither the court nor authorities pursued inquiries regarding remaining stolen items or unidentified accomplices. Speculations arose suggesting government intervention suppressing media coverage, possibly linked to compromising photographs of Princess Margaret with actor John Bindon, used to blackmail the royal family. Alternate theories proposed intelligence agencies orchestrated the heist to conceal embarrassing materials. Regardless, official documentation remains classified until 2071. Thus concludes the story of the Baker Street Bank heist. Your feedback is welcome, and suggestions for future narratives are encouraged. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share the video with those you believe will enjoy it. Until next time,